This is about driving. 7 new driving laws are being introduced this year, including some influenced by the coronavirus and Brexit, that will affect millions of drivers across the country. Anyone who falls foul of the up-and-coming rules could be slapped with a fine and have penalty points put on their licence. You better beware. To run us through the latest changes, Nick Freeman is a leading motoring lawyer, of course. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm all right, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Good to have you with us.
Good.
Where do we start? Mobile phones is a good place to start. I thought they had this one sorted.
Well, they'd have it sorted if they banned mobile phones completely, because actually from a distraction perspective, they're both equally distracting and both as dangerous as drink driving. But what the government are going to do is they're going to actually ban all handheld use of a mobile phone. So it currently stands you can't use a mobile phone for an interactive purpose. If you want to, for example, you take a video, take a photograph, provided that doesn't compromise your safety, you're allowed to do that. It doesn't fall foul of the specific legislation. So we're going to have this ridiculous situation where, in my view, the number of prosecutions is going to be slashed because, as we know, there are no police on our roads, and most people are prosecuted by photographic or video evidence of other motorists who take them. So that is now going to be stopped, and I think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot because there just aren't the police on the road to prosecute these cases.
Because at the moment,
the alternative.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, because I understand it at the moment, some people have got off the charge of of using a mobile phone because they said, actually, no, I was texting, not using the mobile phone or something, or pressing an app for something.
Well, yeah, if you're texting, that's interactive. But the best known case was, of course, Jimmy Carr's back in about 2009.
I was thinking it was actually Jimmy Carr. I was thinking, so he wasn't texting. Yeah. What was he doing?
He was recording a joke.
That was it.
And that wasn't an interactive communication. And I argued it wasn't an interactive communication. There have been many, many cases that have resulted in acquittals because people have been using a phone. It might be to look at a clock. It might be to take a video, a photograph. Now you can't do that anymore. Okay. But I do think the government have shot themselves in the foot for the reasons I've said, and I do think they're now going to have to increase the penalty massively because we need a penalty that polices itself. So if it's as dangerous as drink driving, then why not have a 12-month disqualification? And that might deter people from doing it because it's an extremely dangerous activity. Yeah.
What about pavement parking? This is a bit of a bugbear of mine.
Well, pavement parking is already banned in London. That's going to be rolled out throughout the entire country. And I can understand the reasons behind it, but it's going to cause massive problems in certain areas. I mean, there are certain very affluent roads and some less affluent roads where the streets are extremely narrow and people park on the pavement because they have cars. And if they don't both park on the pavement, there's insufficient room on the roads for them both to park. And so we're going to have massive carnage on these roads. Where are they going to put their vehicles? They're not going to be allowed to park outside the house because they'll be causing an obstruction on the road. What are they supposed to do? Where are these thousands and thousands and thousands of cars going to go?
So it's a fine idea in principle, but actually the implementation is pretty difficult. Brexit changes to driving in Europe. What will be the difference there?
Well, the main difference is going to be you're going to need a green card. And a green card is provided by your insurance company. It's free of charge. And it will tell you what countries you're allowed to drive in. So if you're going to go abroad, you need to say, right, I want to go to France, I want to go to Italy, I want to go to Austria, and they'll provide that. To me, it serves no useful purpose because if you carry with you your insurance certificate, you're covered. Yep. And it's a little bit analogous to the pet passport scheme. Yep. At the moment, if you travel abroad, you have a passport for your dog or your cat or whatever. Now they're going to introduce a healthcare certificate at the cost of £100 to tell you when you have your rabies jab. And that's on the pet passport. So it doesn't serve any purpose. It's just ridiculous administration that's going to cause problems for people because if you don't have it, they may argue your insurance is void because you don't have the proper paperwork and there'll be financial penalties. So if you're going to go abroad, make sure you speak to your insurance company. They'll send it out straight away and cost-free. It's no charge.
Do you reckon, Nick, do they sit in government departments and go, let's have a meeting today about how we can create some more administration? It seems to me that a meeting is going on where they have, how to get more bureaucracy into our system.
Yeah, because they just don't have people making the law who are at the rock face who don't understand exactly what happens. And we say it time and time again, the law needs to be made, obviously, by parliamentarians, but you need experts in whatever field, whether it's medicine, law, whatever, to say, look, this is how it works, this is what needs to happen. and then we might get it right. But at the moment, it's hopelessly wrong.
Just a couple more points. A lot of environmental considerations to these new rules as well, Nick.
Yes, well, we've got this lower emission zone, so you're going to have to pay in London, Bath, Birmingham. This is going to be rolled out throughout the entire country. If you're going to go into certain areas which are designated these ultra low emission zones, you're going to be paying anything up to about £12.50 for your car. If it's a vehicle that's a heavily pollutant vehicle. So of course that's going to drive these vehicles off the road, which does make sense. We don't want heavily pollutant vehicles on the road. And in the meantime, when people have got their cars, I mean, these are the older cars. But of course, as time moves on, the older cars are going to be scrapped, and the new registrations are going to just about get by and will be going back. So it's going to cause problem for diesel cars, and it's going to affect the value of diesel cars.
Sure.
And I think the public need to think very carefully, don't they, about the cars they buy in the future. And of course, we're moving to 2030, when all combustion cars are supposed to be no longer sold.
Green number plates as well. That's also in their driverless car legislation, and mandatory speed assistant tools. Just a final one to finish on.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've already got these warnings in our cars. On many cars, you know, if you're going too fast, I mean, you should be looking at your speedometer. You should be totally aware of what's going on. We don't need these devices, because if you need these devices, you shouldn't be on the road, because you're not really paying attention to what you should be doing. But now we're being told that these will be mandatory from manufacture from the year 2022. Okay. And what they will do is they will warn you if you're exceeding the speed limit, and apparently they have the power to take the vehicle over. So you can imagine, can't you? You're on a single lane, 60 mile an hour speed limit. You want to get past something quickly. You put your foot down, you accelerate quickly, maybe going over the speed limit to conduct that maneuver safely. They intervene and cut you off, and you don't clear the overtake maneuver, and you have a head-on collision with the car in front. So I think drivers need to be in control of their vehicle.
Of course.
You know, it's not like cruise control. This is something that can cut your speed dramatically, and there will be terrible consequences as a result of that. So, you know, certain technology is useful, but we need to drive our cars. We need to be aware. It's a little bit like this lane technology. You know, we're introducing technology now that will enable you to move from one lane to another without having to do anything. Yeah. And of course, if you do that, well, you're not concentrating on your spatial awareness, on what's around you. You're losing that opportunity. So it's fine to have a warning if you're going to go too close, but you want to be able to drive the car and concentrate. You don't want the car pulling out and overtaking without you conducting that controlling movement, because that's for you to do as a driver, in my view.
There's still not. I was hoping that this might be the year they introduced a crime of idiocy behind the wheel. I mean, we know there's dangerous driving, there's careless driving, but driving like a moron, as far as I know, is not on the statute books anywhere. Well, it's long overdue, Nick.
Well, it is covered by legislation. Look, if you're talking about people who sit in the outside lane at 55 miles an hour on the motorway, that is an offence. It carries offensive driving without reasonable consideration, 3 to 9 points. But where are the police? Who's going to prosecute? And now, if we're told you can't use your phone to record bad driving, then how are these people ever going to be prosecuted? So there's dangerous driving there, and there's much more serious offences when there are accidents concerned, you know, serious injury, driving dangerously, death by dangerous, and the sentences are going up. So there are sufficient offences there, but if you don't have the police to implement them, then I think it's not
they come to nothing. Nick, thank you. It's always great to speak. Nick Freeman, leading motoring lawyer, with us here on Talk Radio. We'll come back to that in a few. There's a lot to say on idiotic driving.